It seems like it's about once a week that I see a meme stating good managers shield their employees, good managers protect their team. This time I saw it on LinkedIn, and the post went on to categorize things that toxic supervisors allow their people to deal with. So, this post, like so many of the others that I have seen, would have you believe that office politics, difficult conversations, or uncomfortable run ins with senior leadership should be intercepted by your boss and avoided by every employee. There should be processes in place that help the supervisor or the manager to catch all of these so that an employee never has to deal with them. And if an employee should ever have this sort of run in, they should bubble them up to their supervisor for that person to handle. But the thing is, flat out avoiding all of those cringy situations does nothing to make you better as an employee. And if you're the leader in that situation, it's actually making you worse by taking you away from all of the things that you need to be working on. Now, think of it this way: if you were new to the work world, if you were uncomfortable in any sort of conflict because you just hadn't been there before, a post like that, one that's condemning those toxic supervisors for allowing you to deal with any of those situations on your own, it would feel comforting. It would feel like it's not me. It's not that I'm the problem, that I don't want to do any of this. It's that they are a bad boss. It's that they are a bad manager. And if I had a good manager, they would protect me from all of these hard things. Everything that is painful and difficult in the office, they would handle for me. But if you are that manager, if you are trying to be the most effective you can in your position, if you are trying to create amazing culture on your team and within the organization, and if you are trying to have the strongest results from that team, then you absolutely do not want to protect them. You do not want to absorb all of those negative situations because shielding your people has unintended effects. Let's break it down a little bit. Let's take it to an overly simple situation that I think many of us have dealt with. Imagine a child that doesn't know how to tie her shoes. All right. It is frustrating when they don't know how to tie their shoes because you are inevitably running a few minutes late out the door. You send them to get their shoes on. And then when you get over there, they have them on, but they're doing all sorts of weird things with the laces that are not actually going to result in you being able to leave. They are not going to get those shoes tied. And they want to be independent, right? They want to do it themselves, but they're frustrated because they don't know how. They haven't developed that skill yet. And so one of two things is going to happen. One, you are going to let them run out that door with their untied shoes, and they'll trip and they'll fall and they'll get hurt. And you don't want that, right? So you shield them, you protect them from that pain, from that skinned knee, and instead you tie that shoe for them. Let's pretend for a moment that you always do that for them. You always get to the door and help your little girl tie her shoe. Now, what is going to happen when you do that? Well, she's always going to bring you her shoes. But when she gets to an age where she wants to play sports, they're going to be out of the question because you're going to need to lace up cleats or sneakers or skates. But she's never learned how to do it. And so she's not going to feel like she'll be able to join that team because you may not always be there to just do it for her. Or worse than that, she'll be too embarrassed to ask for help. So maybe she'll try to just make friends in another way. She doesn't have to just be in sports or just be in the arts, right? So a bunch of girls are going to go shopping for the day, except she doesn't know how to tie anything because tying your shoes is the same way you tie a lot of other things. And will she be able to put on that dress that has a wrap and a tie on the side? Will she be able to look at shirts if they inevitably have some sort of bow or something that needs to be tied? Let alone wanting to try on jeans or some other sort of pants because she'll have to take her shoes off and put them back on and she won't be able to retie them. Now she's missing out on all sorts of opportunities, ones that could build friendships, ones that could build confidence, all because she doesn't have this very basic skill of tying her shoes. Now imagine that you did teach her. You showed her how to tie her shoes. You talked her through it as she practiced. You explained how you were going to make the tree and have the bunny run around the tree and through the hole, right? And then you did the hardest part of all. You sat on your hands as she practiced. You gave her some encouragement, you gave her some tips and tricks, but you didn't touch it and you let her learn herself. That look of pride that she gets as soon as she has just tied that shoe perfectly and tightly, it makes that whole uncomfortable process feel short and worth it, certainly. And now she has this new skill that is so basic, she will barely give it a second thought, but it allows her to build on it to create more skills, more relationships, more confidence in the end. Her opportunities, her talents, and her friends are all expanding because she has this very, very basic skill. Now that's nice, right? And we can all agree that that is how you would get there, that you need those basics as a child to grow and develop into the adult you want to be. But does it really apply at work? Is it that basic at work? Yes, it is no different than trying to save time tying your shoes. Because while your instinct may be to protect your team from all of those challenging or high stakes situations, that overprotection is a disservice in the long run. Growth for the employees and for the organization comes from exposure, exposure to complex situations, exposure to adversity, and taking on responsibility. And when leaders shield their employees from all of this, they unintentionally create this dependency on the manager. It limits the team's ability to develop critical skills and confidence, just like we saw with the little girl. In the world of work, the opportunities you're losing aren't hockey tryouts and dance teams and days at the mall, if people even go to the mall anymore. So let's look at what you are risking and how you can use those challenging situations to build. All right. So, three ways that I want you to consider stop shielding and start building up your employees. The first one that is at risk when you take everything on yourself is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking comes from understanding the ultimate objective and then the basic parameters that we need to stay within to get there, and having the latitude to work within that to achieve the goal. When you, as a manager or a supervisor, director, even VP, are trying to control every aspect, every step by step process, you are taking away the chance to learn how to think strategically. So, that whole required skill that will take you from being just kind of a ho hum employee to a leader in your field, strategic thinking is so critical. And you're robbing them of that by not allowing them to learn it. So, again, how are we going to do that? We need to be really clear with them on the ultimate objective. We need to give them the basic parameters that they are going to work within. And then we need to allow them to actually work with them to meet that. That means you need to get clear with yourself and with your employees. Rather than outlining every single detailed step along the way, which would be the how, which we're skipping over, right? So don't get clear on all of the steps. Get clear on the objective. When you're clear on the objective, but you leave the how open to interpretation for your team, You will be stunned at the amount of creativity and innovation that can come out of that. Now, this one is tough. We are starting right off the bat with a hard one because it means you have to be really clear about what you want. What is the end result that you want to see? And if you're feeling like you don't have that yet, you don't have that level of clarity and strategic thinking for yourself yet, we need to develop that before you're able to teach it to anybody else. And so I have a free guide down below that will help you in developing that strategic thought in yourself before you can then teach it to your folks. Okay. Because when you lead strategically, you are able to teach your team that skill as well, but not until you have it. But then when you nail it, when you are able to think strategically and you have a team that can do the same, you will be turning heads with how fast you are able to hit the metric and get things done well. All right, number two, resilience. When you move away from a step by step process and you open it up to more interpretation, more creativity, more innovation, there's going to be mistakes. But we want those, right? Because people are going to be removing a step in the name of efficiency, and that's going to actually cause a process to break. Or they're going to select a vendor because it hits the objective, but then they're going to find out that your parameters weren't as clear as you meant them to be, and the vendor's not going to actually work. They're even going to share some bit of information out in an email that should have never been leaked because they're trying to be transparent. But you know what? You're going to be better for it. They are going to adapt and grow, and the whole organization is going to be stronger in the process. Just like sitting on your hands as she is fumbling with those laces is painful in the moment, you are building to that moment of pride and to freedom for yourself, because soon they are going to be able to do their own work that is even better that you could have imagined, all because you are building those skills in these small mistake containers. Failure is the only way for them and for you to build resilience, because you have to get knocked down to learn how to get. All right, the third thing that you are risking when you shield and protect your employees from every difficult situation is the ability to build relationships and connections. Yes, I am talking about networking, and I know that there are some competing thoughts on that. And that's why it's one of the top reasons people give for shielding their teams. They are shielding them from people. They don't say it that way, though, do they? Think about it this way: your work bestie and you probably bonded over some shared view, whether it was excitement or frustration of a project or initiative that was being worked on, right? Now you relate to them and you would have their back on anything. Well, that is office politics in a nutshell. The supervisor on another team that doesn't like your vendor choice that we talked about, what a great opportunity to understand their feedback and refine those parameters that we were talking about before. You want a fast way to promotion? You want to be able to influence and have a powerful reputation? Nailing that senior leader hot seat is the fastest way to do that. And by shielding and protecting your people from all of those things, from the feedback, the politics, and the senior leaders, you are actually fending off those opportunities for your person to get promoted, for them to build connections and build strong relationships in the organization, and for them to refine the parameters and get better at their jobs. But you wouldn't say that that's what you're keeping them from, right? Because we have these unintended consequences that go along with every time we shield our employees. I think by this point in the video, we can all agree that shielding isn't doing what you think it is. The idea of shielding is to protect. However, what feels like protection in the moment is stunting growth in the long term. So we might save that little girl from a skinned knee by tying her shoes for her, but we are also saving her from a strong social circle, the ability to try new things, and for her to consider what she's capable of without being held back by the limitations that we put on her by protecting her in the first place. And managers protect people too. They protect people by controlling the details, by giving them every step. They control the inputs and the outputs because they are uncertain that their team can handle it on their own. Leaders are different though. Leaders empower their teams with strategic thoughts to make and test decisions. And that word test, that means it could go really well or it might not. Leaders support their teams as they learn to be resilient when they fail. And exceptional leaders create situations where their teams can show what they're capable of, even if that seat is a little warmer than what would be comfortable for them. You can be that exceptional leader. You can lead future leaders with confidence, even as you face questions and obstacles. It all starts with dropping that uncertainty as a manager and getting to know what makes you unstoppable as a leader. So, again, I want to encourage you to go down and click the link below that will get you the Uncertain to Unstoppable workbook and help you become that exceptional leader that you want